And so the question is, you have those prosecutions. Do we honestly think these agencies are the best to turn around and do this investigation on a potential assassin that some of them may or may not want to be held accountable for if there was something they could have done better? Today, I'm signing an executive order assigning the case involving the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump to the Office of Statewide Prosecutor under the supervision of Attorney General Ashley Moody. The suspect, Ryan Ralph, is believed to have committed state law violations across multiple judicial circuits in the state. Palm Beach Judicial Circuit, the Judicial Circuit including Martin County, as well as perhaps the Judicial Circuit represented by Broward County. Also, the state of Florida has jurisdiction over the most serious, straightforward offense, which is attempted murder. I've directed state agencies to move expeditiously and to provide full transparency to the public. In my judgment, it's not in the best interest of our state or our nation to have the same federal agencies that are seeking to prosecute Donald Trump leading this investigation, especially when the most serious, straightforward offense constitutes a violation of state law, but not federal law. In addition to holding the suspect accountable, the public deserves to know the truth about how this assassination came to be. And I have directed all state agencies to work expeditiously to be able to uncover the truth in addition to holding this suspect accountable.
This is unprecedented to have this much focus on a presidential nominee with the type of rhetoric and threats coming out of the mouths of so many people. And I will just say, it was really disappointing to hear the president say that President Trump should be put in a bullseye just days before we saw the first assassination attempt, and then weeks later at the DNC say that that threat was still very much alive, and now again, in under 30 days, another assassination attempt. And so what I think people are hungry for is leadership. They don't want somebody to come out and say, Secret Service needs to tell us what they need and Congress should do something about it. It may very well be that more resources need to be dedicated to Secret Service. But leadership is about strategy. It's about implementing a plan. It's about determining where your gaps are, your deficiencies, and filling those in. I mean, look no further than our governor when we were hit by a major catastrophe like Ian, a hurricane, and he didn't say, somebody give them money, and he didn't say, you do this. He built a bridge in 3 days. He got it done. I told him that's what he should have ran on when he ran for re-election. That was it. The motto should have been a bridge in 3 days. And so what we need is the president to acknowledge that these agencies, not just Secret Service, but DHS, in which it is housed, are under his purview. That is what the people elected him to be, our commander-in-chief and the head of an executive branch which is made up of agencies. And that means when something happens and goes wrong, you are in the details and you are formulating a plan, and it may not always be just about money. It's about leadership. And right now, the American people need to know we're on this. Sometimes states have the ability and the jurisdiction to bring charges and go after maximum penalties that maybe the federal government does not. And that doesn't mean it's a turf war. Somebody asked me about that before. It is very common for state investigators, state prosecutors to work with our federal prosecutors and federal agents on dual tracks with different purposes. And we may have different charges here, and that's why with Governor DeSantis' leadership, I am proud that Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the Florida Highway Patrol will be looking into and investigating what happened when something went terribly wrong, when someone was allowed to remain on the periphery of a golf course in a tree line for 12 hours and get within 500 feet of the President of the United States.
Within just hours after this heinous attempt on former President Donald Trump, Governor DeSantis took action and directed state law enforcement to find the truth, to hunt for the truth, and that's what we're doing. We're hunting. Florida is a law and order state, and we will not sit idly by while anybody stonewalls information sharing amongst our law enforcement entities. We know that if we want answers, we got to go get them. And our proud law enforcement officers and deputies are out there doing that, and we are happy to do that for this great state. Additionally, Florida law enforcement is very fortunate to have Attorney General Moody and her prosecutors to help us with finding that truth. And her Office of Statewide Prosecution is an essential partner in our quest for justice. Let me be clear on this one. Acts of domestic terrorism, such as attempted assassinations, are unacceptable, and we will not stand for that in Florida. The men and women of Florida law enforcement agencies throughout our great state are working day and night tirelessly to uncover and fight for the truth. The people of Florida deserve answers, and Governor, we will deliver those answers to you. Thank you.
The Office of Statewide Prosecutor, under the supervision of Attorney General Moody, that statewide prosecutor has jurisdiction when somebody commits offenses across multiple jurisdictions. And so we know there were offenses. We have probable cause for offenses in Palm Beach and Martin, and we also think maybe Broward. And so all three of those counties are part of three distinct judicial circuits. So the statewide prosecutor does have jurisdiction to do, and that's there. And here's the thing. You have a responsibility in law enforcement and as a prosecutor to hold people accountable to the fullest extent of the law. It would be one thing to hand off to the feds if somehow they had more significant crimes that they could pursue. It doesn't seem that that's the case as of now. Clearly, and the FBI has admitted that this was an attempted assassination, you have that jurisdictional hook at the state level for by far the most serious offense. I think this is an offense that should merit a life in prison. And if we're not going to go to the fullest extent of the law, you're lowering the threshold to which someone in the future may try to do something like this. So I think it's really important for the people of Florida, but also for our country, that we pursue the most serious charges that are on the books to hold this guy accountable. And to say you're going to do a couple gun charges, that is not going to be sufficient to do it. So they clearly have jurisdiction in the statewide prosecutor. We have a very strong interest in holding this suspect accountable to the fullest extent of the law. And we are in a better position in the state of Florida to be able to provide answers to the public. I think back about what happened in Las Vegas back 6-7 years ago. We never got any answers about that. I think back about what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. We've not gotten very many answers about that. I think that really erodes public confidence. And I think the Florida agencies working from local on up have an opportunity to do a thorough investigation and then to provide the truth about what's happening or what happened and how this came to be. And people deserve the truth. And so I think that there's two really significant interests, holding him accountable and then delivering the truth about how this could have happened. The federal government does not have jurisdiction to bring an attempted murder charge. If you look at the federal statute, it applies to current federal officials. Okay, so I'm explaining to you why that's happening, if you let me finish. So they don't have jurisdiction over a case that's not a federal official or is a apparent winner of a presidential election or the formally declared president-elect. So right then and there, we have the ability to pursue potentially life in prison under state law. That's a huge reason why we should move forward at the state level than that. And it is the case that you have a situation where these charges that were brought in this jurisdiction, Southern District of Florida, by the federal government, they were dismissed by a federal judge, and now they're on appeal trying to get those reinstated. And they have a right to do that. But I would note to you, it was Merrick Garland who assigned a special counsel because he said there was a political issue and they wanted to appear to be above it. He was the one that did that. There really was no true conflict. If these were normal crimes, you could have done it. But they did a special counsel. And so if you did a special counsel for that, wouldn't those same concerns animate whether you're the appropriate jurisdiction. So they cannot pursue charges to the extent we can. And yes, I do think that there's a lot of concern about how these agencies have operated. And the state of Florida, I mean, you know, for us, all weird shit is the truth. We're not involved in any of those other things that the Justice Department or FBI have been involved in. So it's better for the public and it's better for justice. They are trying to prosecute him in the Southern District of Florida. That's just a fact. So just think about that. You have an agency, they're prosecuting him in 2 different jurisdictions right now. They're prosecuting him in Southern Florida. That's on appeal to the 11th Circuit. They're also prosecuting in the District of Columbia for the January 6th stuff. So these are 2 major cases that these agencies are involved with. And so the question is, given that, and there's a lot of people who have a lot of issues with those prosecutions. I mean, as you well know, it's not like these are prosecutions that the American people have rallied behind. It has divided this country in big ways. And so the question is, you have those prosecutions. Do we honestly think these agencies are the best to turn around and do this investigation on a potential assassin that some of them may or may not want to be held accountable for if there was something they could have done better, right, with security? I don't know what all went into the federal stuff. But, man, don't you want a clean slate? Don't you want to have investigative agencies that are just going to pursue this without any other agenda creeping in, without there being any cause for concern about any impartiality? And, oh, by the way, that can bring the most serious, readily provable offense under state law, not under federal law. So this is the right thing to do for justice. And I think justice means holding the perpetrator accountable to the full extent of the law, but justice also means making sure we get the unvarnished truth. We haven't gotten the unvarnished truth about Butler, Pennsylvania. That's just a fact. We never got really any truth about Las Vegas when that happened. And so I think people are used to kind of the federal agencies taking control of things and then no answers happening. And we don't want that to happen in this case. That's not appropriate to happen in this case, especially when the state of Florida has multiple grounds with which to pursue charges against this individual. What the state does is going to be made public. I mean, if you guys know who are from Florida, you can FOIA a lot of the stuff that's done in these investigations under Florida sunshine laws, and then they have a charge to be very frank and exercise candor with the public. I want the information to get out. I do not want any of the information kept under wraps. We're not a party to anything that happened in terms of the state of Florida government. I mean, we have been asked to help in the past on security, and we're always willing to do that. But that wasn't our primary. We were not responsible for it that day. We've not been responsible for any of the prosecutions that have been brought against the former president. So we're in a great situation to be able to look at this with clear eyes, get answers, and then deliver those answers to the public. I don't think anyone can honestly claim that the federal government has been forthright and transparent about its past investigations. That's just the reality. That's just how these guys operate. Apart from any type of political bias, that's how it's been really for many, many years. That's not how it's going to be here. And so we'll cooperate with all agency or all levels of government, because I think that some of those gun charges may be appropriate to bring, but not to the exclusion of bringing a charge for something like attempted murder. The reality is we have a duty to pursue the most serious offense available. And I don't know that you'd want to stand in the way of that happening. So we're going to do it. They're going to work collaboratively with the feds. But as Commissioner Kerner said, if this is not going to be something that's going to be transparent from there, we're going to work hard to behind the scenes to be able to get the information to the public. So I feel that this is a pretty straightforward violation of state law, potentially, that of course they have to investigate and prove it up, and they have to get the charges filed and agreed to go forward. But I think that they can do that. But I just think if you get like a couple gun charges, not that those are de minimis, but that is not the same. There's people that have gun charges in this country every single day across every single federal district in this country. To have somebody that's waiting in the bushes with a long gun trying to take out a former president of the United States and current GOP nominee. That is not something that can be taken lightly. And if we do anything but go the fullest extent of the law on this, then I think we're sending a signal that maybe this isn't that bad, and that's unacceptable. So we're going to go fullest extent of the law. I have confidence in Attorney General Moody and her team to be able to get the job done, and so we'll have more information as the investigation unfolds. And if it does lead, which I hope it will lead, to appropriate charges, those will be pursued at the appropriate time. Thanks, everybody.